Okay, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Janice Bernadas. I'm 77 years old, and I have my granddaughter, Iris.
Okay, so question one. Growing up, when did you recognize that there were differences in skin color? Did someone tell you, or do you just remember always knowing?
Truthfully, I didn't really realize it. And I realized that we were going down Highway 90 one day, and they had this sign that said colored only. And I asked my dad, I said, what does that mean? What do you mean colored? He said, that's for black people. I said, well, why can't they stay in the other hotels? He says, because they're not allowed to. And I thought that, I really was upset about that. I thought that was awful. And I can also remember going to City Park. Don't make me laugh.
I won't.
Going to City Park, and they used to have this little pool for children. And you had little black children walk looking at everybody. They weren't allowed to go in the pool, which I thought was horrible. And then they had fountains that were for white only. So what did the black child do when they were thirsty? It was horrible. And I never could understand that. You know? So that's how that was.
Okay. Do you remember any books, movies, signs, newspapers, or anything else like that that discussed racial issues? What were they like, and how did they make you feel?
Well, actually, I don't really remember that. Because we treated everybody the same, basically. And I never really did look like that. As far as color, it didn't bother me. In fact, I don't know if I should say this, can you erase if I don't?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I was a little girl, excuse me, you would see women nursing that were nursing their children. And I asked my mom, I said, you know what? Those little black babies are really lucky. And she says, why? I said, because they get chocolate milk. And my mama says, they don't get chocolate milk, it's white milk. But naturally, you think that they're dark, and therefore their milk's going to be dark. And
it's like the purple cows and the green cows.
Like the purple and green cows, right.
Okay. So do you have any personal experiences with segregation, and how did you personally deal with racial segregation?
I never really did. The only thing is, after I was married and had children, they had all this Ku Klux Klan deal going on. And there was someone burned the cross in front of Shelman High School, and it scared me to death. It really did, yes, very much. Now, my husband and I really didn't, we had rental property, and we used to, we rented to blacks and whites, and it didn't matter. And there was this little boy, his name is Eric. And he was my youngest son's favorite friend. We used to go over there to repair the apartments and they played all the time. And he wanted to know when we could go back and talk and see Eric. And it didn't bother him one bit.
Did you ever confront any discrimination around you? Why or why not?
Honestly, we did. I mean, it's really strange because people say about that now. But I never saw that. The only thing that upset me was the shows. Like, we used to go to the circle show, and the whites sat downstairs and the blacks sat upstairs. And I told my mom, I said, if I was those black people upstairs, I'd throw stuff downstairs on the white people. Because we never really had anything. They didn't have fights like they do today. We didn't have all of that. I mean, it's just now. That's what I can remember.
Right. Do you know of any types of legal segregation that existed in your community? So, like segregated schools or anything like that?
Emily?
I don't know. I don't think I don't know if the schools were segregated or not. I do remember when we first moved to Chalmette, they had this house on Plaza, and the man had a fight with his neighbor next door, so he decided to move. And he put it in the hands of a black real estate company. And all the neighbors were really upset, And so he had to take the sign down. That's the only thing I really can remember about that.
Did you ever know or witness anything violent erupt because of segregation?
No.
No?
Never.
That's good.
Now you do, but not then. No.
Did you ever notice younger people responding differently from the older community regarding race?
What's that again now?
So did like the younger people of your generation, do you think they responded differently from the older people?
Yeah, I think so. Positively, yeah. Now my father-in-law, he couldn't stand blacks. And my sister-in-law, told me she had a date with this guy, and they were going to the Loyola game, basketball game. And my father-in-law would not allow her friend, and she was like in her mid-30s possibly, she wouldn't leave this young man come into his home because they segregated the bathrooms at Loyola.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, and my husband and his father had a big argument about that. In fact, he kicked him out the house. He
Oh
was
my
so
God.
mad. Yeah, but that's how he was.
Yeah. Do you think that women responded differently than men in regards to race?
Yeah, positively.
How?
I think women have more sense.
Oh, of course.
But men, I think they try to be macho. They want to say, well, I can do this and I can. But, honestly, the women, my friends and all, we never worry about that.
Did you ever witness any local demonstrations, sit-ins that you remember or participated in?
Never. The only thing I said was that cross, that burned cross. That's the only thing I ever saw, and I was scared to death.
Yeah. So then you didn't know anyone that participated in like civil rights organizations or anything like that?
In fact, my oldest daughter Janine, she was, we picked up she went to Holy Angels, and we picked them up from, they went to see the play out in Metairie, and my husband and I picked them up. And coming back, my daughter was having a party, but not that night. And she invited black kids, and it's the nicest little girl you ever want to see. Very, very sweet. She was afraid to come to Chalmette. My husband says, don't worry, you're going to be fine. And she did come, and she had a good time. And they all treated her like everybody.
Did your church or religious group get involved in any way with civil rights activities?
No.
No. Did you attend a segregated school?
I'm trying to think. Well, the thing was this. Blacks basically lived in certain areas, and then whites live in certain areas. So,
Okay,
Bye, Dawn.
bye.
Good to see you
Happy
again.
Mother's Day.
Have a good night.
I'm sorry. Basically, like the black community live in their community, and they basically had their schools, and so did the white. So there were no blacks that went to my school. I went
Right.
to St. Leo, the great Catholic school. Today it's all black.
Right.
But that's the school I went to, and there were no blacks there. And we didn't go there because of that. We went there because
Right.
of religious background.
Right. So it wasn't necessarily like legally segregating. It was just that not really any black kids went there. Okay.
And you see, they charge you to go too. So I don't know if a lot of in that area probably a lot of people couldn't afford. Now in high school, it was all white. I went to Holy Angels, and it was all white. Now when my children went to Holy Angels, they had blacks and whites. Not as many blacks, because again, you had to pay tuition. And maybe they just didn't have the same income.
Right. Okay, so how were white and black interactions at integrated schools in your area? Did you witness like any fights or friendships?
No.
Right, because it was pretty much.
It was fine. I remember when they segregated the school. I think it was Washington School. There was a big, demonstration going on, but I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't really.
No.
So did you have any interracial friends when you were growing up?
No,
No.
not by choice.
Right.
It was just
You just
that.
didn't really know any.
Right. It's just that, like, you had like white communities and you had black communities. So it wasn't like it is today.
Right. What were your feelings towards Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X?
Well, I think they were great people, and I think they've come a long way. I do believe, however, that sometimes they go about it the wrong way. That they want to push rather than trying to gradually do it peacefully. And I think a lot of blacks today blame my generation for all of this, and they blame the white people for slavery.
Right.
Well, it wasn't. We didn't do it. It was our ancestors who did it, and it was not us. And I don't think that's right.
So what do you think the greatest accomplishment of the civil rights movement was?
Oh, I think that it was great because you have young blacks who get a good education, who go to college, who become professionals. I think it's wonderful. But let me tell you this much. You have good whites and you have bad whites. It's like you have good blacks and you have bad blacks.
Right.
And it's it's just how it is, And the thing is that the blacks that I know, I had a little black girl come eat supper by my house already. And we greeted her, we hugged and kissed. I had a black beautician, and that's all I would go to. She did my hair just like I liked it and so forth. But I mean, that doesn't bother me. It's just the ones the blacks that bother me are the ones that are violent. And you have whites like that also, but I think you have more blacks. And I really think it's because grandmothers are raising their children's children because they had children very young.
Right. So you think it's kind of like a community thing?
Oh yeah,
Like a
and then
cultural-
therefore there's so many children that the kids rebel.
Right. Okay. So I guess. Okay. So in your opinion, what else can be done to improve civil rights?
Honestly, I believe that, and I'm just sound horrible saying this, but at times I think the federal government does too much for blacks and whites because they give them breakfast, they serve them lunch, and there was a black school in Lower New Orleans, what I used to work for, that they used to feed them supper, hamburgers at nighttime sometimes if they went to the library. And I think that blacks and people do not take time to spend with their children. They don't worry about feeding them because they know that they're going to get fed at school. They basically just don't seem to care. Not that they don't love them, but they don't take enough time with them. They just have them and they bring them up the best they can. But I think that's the big problem, that the parents, black and white, that they just don't give enough time to their children, and they expect the federal government to take care of them.
Okay.
Basically.
All right. That was the last question. Thank you.
That's that. Oh, you
That was
gotta
it.
be kidding.
Nope.
Oh, bye.
Bye, Ira.
Bye.
I hope you like it. That was Prufo.